Hello, everyone. We're ready to get started. I want to thank all of you for joining today, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. My name is Jennifer Morse. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at MadCap Software. I am so thrilled to introduce Olga Gomonova, Head of Client Enablement at Unqork. Hi, Olga. And since 2017, Unqork has been empowering Fortune 500 companies to create custom applications faster and more cost-effectively using its visual no-code application platform. And to help customers use this platform, the company uses MadCap Flare and MadCap Central as part of its overall tech stack to build the Unqork Academy Learning Management platform. And today, Olga is going to cover how Unqork built and delivered a state-of-the-art educational offering via a 4 stages of maturity model. So we're going to learn about this model today and how Unqork's client enablement and customer education team was able to not only scale, which is important, but the effect that it had on other teams and departments across the company, equally as important. And through these 4 distinct stages of maturity, Olga's going to share how she built and managed each phase and these successes that she had. So we have a lot to cover today, as always. And so, like we always do, I just want to review 2 quick items of business before we begin. Number 1, this is going to be recorded. So if you have to jump out early, not to worry, we're going to send a link to the recording to everybody. Also, there is a question panel in the GoToWebinar console. I would encourage you to drop in any questions that you have as Olga's going through this presentation. We're going to do our best to get to as many as we can at the end. If we don't get to everything live, we'll go ahead and follow up with a question and answer document and send it to everybody. So with that, Olga, again, thank you so much for joining. I know you have a lot to cover today, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn these presenter rights over to you. And nope, we're going to do this here. Let me do this as elegantly as I can. Here we go. All right, so you are ready to go, and we can see your screen. And I think you're muted, Olga, so we just want to turn your audio on.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you so much.
Of course. Hello, everybody. Just a quick hello before I turn our attention to the presentation. Super excited for you all to be here. Basically, this discussion is going to be around how we at Unqork build an enablement function completely from scratch, and we're able to scale it up, and what were the learnings along the way, what were the pitfalls and maybe some of the mistakes that were made and how to avoid them in the future. And for anybody who is either looking to build a function, educational services or enablement function from scratch, or maybe for anybody who is a part of the mature company that seems to launch or maybe supercharge their enablement or educational services function, this presentation may be very helpful to you because it does go through every single maturity phase from 0 to a place where you really are serving hundreds and thousands of customers and generating revenue and sort of running a whole robust operation. So on that note, one more time, you guys can see my screen, correct?
Yes, we're going to probably want to share your presentation. There we go. Perfect.
So the first thing, let's talk a little bit about why do we look at Unqork and why Unqork can sort of in a position to share the wisdom, so to speak. We are the enterprise SaaS for secure, complex, and regulated environments. We are a platform for no-code application development. Unqork is a very young company. It's only 3 years old, but we so far have been able to raise over $360 million in venture capital backing from Capital G, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and a whole slew of other very high visibility, highly competent investors. We are, in terms of architecture, modern single-tenant multi-cloud provider. We support AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, every single cloud you can imagine. We also designed to meet healthcare and public sector requirements, which are very stringent. We have trained, and that's specifically my function, over 5,000 Unqork designers at customer sites and SIs. We are deployed in 10 different countries across Americas, Europe, and Asia. And over the past couple of months, really, we finally reached a valuation of over $2 billion. So we are a double unicorn over 3 years, which is really exciting and really fun to be part of. We're also deployed with the world's most technologically advanced and complex environments. Our customers include Goldman Sachs, Principal, different medical hospitals, and also Liberty Mutual, among many, many other clients. So a little bit about myself. I'm the head of client enablement at Unqork. Prior to joining Unqork, I worked for several Fortune 500 companies with a focus on technology and financial services. I worked for State Street Corporation, McKinsey, Microsoft Corporation, and I also spent time with the VC community and founded Chic Cartel, a young platform for sustainable designers. I graduated from Tufts University with a degree in international relations and finance, and then I got my MBA from Harvard before joining Unqork. And I have to say, through all of this journey, the most fun I've ever had was recently as I was building out this function. So before we begin and kind of jump into what are the 4 stages of maturity for the enablement function, let's just get a few terms down. The first thing is that when I talk about enablement, I don't necessarily mean sales enablement. In many companies, sales enablement is about sales enablement. So you're essentially helping sales teams do their job. But for Unqork, it is significantly wider than that. Enablement for us is a center of knowledge. We own every single program that's designed to educate client, partner, and internal teams on how to use Unqork platform. In general, enablement and educational services can be used interchanged. And so I sometimes will talk about enablement and sometimes we'll talk about educational services. And in essence, it's one and the same thing. So let's talk a little bit about the 4 stages. Basically, as enablement or educational services continue to move forward, it moves across 4 different stages of development. We're currently here somewhere between stage number 3 and number 4. And my big goal for 2021 is really nail down the stage number 4. But let's talk a little bit what each and every one of them means. Stage number 1, say for example, you join a company like I did myself back in 2018, and the leadership thinks that maybe, just maybe, there is a place for the enablement function, educational services function within the company. But we don't know that yet for a fact. So what you need to do is you need to build out your minimal viable product. You need to prove that there is demand for a function. You need to select key platforms. You potentially have to start thinking about the team, and you need to also start thinking about basic certifications, because that is a huge part of educational services. If and when all of this goes smoothly and you indeed are able to build an MVP, some kind of very basic educational program, present it to your clients or partners and get positive feedback, if you show any kind of traction, then you can move to stage number 2. Stage number 2 is when you demonstrate demand for growth. You start building top quality in-product help documentation, you have to develop basic body of knowledge, and you have to streamline your certifications and examinations. If all of this goes well, then you earn your right to move to stage number 3. And this is a really, really critical stage that we just finished delivering. It's productization of educational services offering. It's developing educational pathways. It's defining services metrics and developing a system of awards. So now all of a sudden you're completely out of MVP phase. You already proved demand, and now you have to offer to the world a really nicely defined, very fleshed out product that you can be really, really proud of. And if that happens right, then you earn your right to move to stage number 4, which is develop educational services business model, focus on educational services pricing, focus on scaling, also innovation, and of course, the absolute holy grail of educational services, you always want to move away from cost center to revenue center, because that's best practice, and we'll talk about why that is. So this is the matrix. And those are the 4 stages. As I go through the slides, we're going to essentially pause on different parts of this matrix, and I'll come back to it a few times just to orient you guys in terms of where we are. But this slide is very similar to this slide. It's just a little bit differently organized and has a little bit more of detail. Stage number 1, the goal is create a minimum viable product. Your team is just a person. It's essentially you. In my case, it was me. One hire, you are perfectly capable to carry this stage on your own. You do not need anybody else. In terms of technology and platforms, all you need is Google Sheets or Microsoft if you use that product. basic web page, doesn't matter what that is, and email, because that's all the tools you're going to need to push out your first minimal viable product. And believe it or not, at this stage, you're pretty independent or semi-independent. You don't really need anybody. You can do things on your own. Of course, you're still employed by the company, but you don't need to collaborate overly aggressively to get anything done, because you're going to be focusing on pushing out the first content. Then stage number 2, scale. You're going to have to hire 2 people here. You will not be able to carry this yourself. For educational services, a huge likelihood is that you're going to hire 1 technical writer and 1 technical trainer. So you're going to be 3 of you, technical writer and technical trainer. Here is where you're going to have to select your technical writing platform. And of course, for us, it's MADWorld and learning management system. For us, it's SkillJar. I'll talk a little bit more about how to select the best platform for you. At this stage, you're going to be loosely tied into the overall organization. Why? Because you have already a team, you need to leverage SMEs to create better content. It's significantly more engaged in terms of cooperation within different departments. Then comes stage number 3, productization. Very, very exciting. From 3 people, you're going to have to move to 3 teams, because you're going to have to hire multiple technical writers, multiple technical trainers. Here is where we highly recommend you also hire instructional design team. We'll talk about a little bit about what that is and why it's absolutely critical for your success. And you will work on certification, badging. You will work on your QA forum platforms, because you will need to provide a platform for your users to interact with each other directly. And you will have to tie very well into your overall organization, because here things are already serious. You're creating a product, you're going to be talking to your product managers, you're going to be talking to maybe solution or technical departments to make sure that all different tiers are covered. Your body of knowledge is already very robust. A lot of collaboration happens here. And then the final stage, commercialization. You had 3 teams before, now you have 3 departments, you're much larger. You're worrying about data analytics tools, you're going to worry about pricing tools. To communicate with your users really well, because now you're large, you have a product, already selling that product. And here you're going to be integrated into the overall organization. Why? Because in order for you to reach your customers with the educational services, you're going to have to work through customer success, through sales, through support, maybe through the product even department. You're going to have to make sure that all those points where the colleagues of yours in different departments are talking to a customer, they mention the fact that you have educational services and the fact that it's really helpful and robust and very well received. So integration here is really, really critical. So let's go ahead and talk about stage number 1. Here it is highlighted, again, MVP, 1 person, really, really simple. Think about it as your own startup within a startup. Even if you are in a mature organization trying to maybe launch that department, or like myself, you are at the young company, simultaneously launching something within it. Bottom line, think of yourself as an entrepreneur. So that's my message to you. Here, you see what looks as my headcount chart, which all grayed out. On top is head of enablement, which is what my title is. And at this time, this is where I was. I was just alone. All of this will get added as we progress through stages of maturity. But at first, I was just on my own, and here I was. That's my org at the time. And here's what happened. The first thing you need to do is you need to have a basic understanding of the product. Wherever your product is, for us, again, it's a platform to build complex industrial strength applications in the no-code environment. You need to have basic understanding of the product. You don't have to become solution architect, kind of depth of knowledge person. You don't need too many complicated things. You need to know enough to be dangerous and to teach your first users the very fundamentals of the program. Again, we're only trying to prove value, the fact that there is demand and the fact that there is, in fact, a way to teach your product in a consistent fashion. And so I'll give you a quick example. Like one of the first things that I've done here is I created a project plan. This is literally from FY19 here to 2 years ago. Little really basic Excel spreadsheet project plan. I was planning to build certifications and pick the platform, and maybe I was thinking about rich media, video content, which, by the way, honestly, something that comes much later. Thinking about the team, and little by little, I set up dates and just kind of like chugged along with my deliverables. Another thing that I've done, and this I think is a really important piece of insight, I did some basic research to understand like how to build the org. Let's just go jump here. back here, there we go. And there's a lot of information online that you can find as far as how to build enablement organization. But one of the very best tools that I found, and completely randomly, was this company called TSIA, or Technology and Services Industry Association. So this company is out of the West Coast, basically provides solutions for building out different departments within the company. Like they have customer success, and they have professional services, and they have support services, but they also have educational services. So if I click on this thing, honestly, this kind of saved my life early on, because what they do very effectively is they put out research and best practices for building out educational services organization. And one of the really good things that I offer here for free is this, let me see if I have it here. It's basically educational services benchmarking. Here it is. It's a report that you can download, and you're basically going to read what all other companies of your type and size are doing in educational services function area. They'll tell you what best practices they use, how they build their teams, what technology they use, what's sort of like the next hot thing in the industry. Really, really, really good feedback. So I would spend time on this website. This is the head, Maria Chapman. She's actually, I heard her speak many times. She's the head of that department. She's really effective. Overall, this is a great company, and you can also become a member here if you want to get like more in-depth content. But even if you're not, just spending time on this website, downloading reports and religiously brushing through them will take you really, really far if you're trying to build this kind of org. So coming back here, there you go. Did a little bit of research, a little bit of project plan. Another thing that I've done that I want to recommend, and if whoever's listening, guys, if you have questions on this, I'm going to take you here. I'll be happy to send you and invite you. This is actually an industry group. I'll just give it a minute to load. Yes, this is an industry group on Slack. It's an open group called Customer Education Org. And people who are on this chat, on this group, are all involved in client education services or enablement across completely different companies. You have conference information here, building org from scratch, general job postings, you name it. I use this actually really heavily, and it's been really, really good. Like here on the right-hand side, I recently asked the question, what platform are you using for analytics? Would greatly appreciate any feedback. And a whole bunch of people from different companies just got back to me in a matter of half an hour, giving me insight into what is everybody using for analytics for their functions. And everybody's in educational services, everybody's doing the same thing, completely common problems, great people. So you can get invited into this group and essentially draw your insights from there. So I'm going back to my slide. Yeah, so coming back to the storyline here, basically, you're doing your research, you're getting becoming part of industry organizations, asking everybody questions, and slowly starting forming your content. You need your basic content. It took me about 3 months to develop the basic program. And this slide here I pulled from a very, very early presentation I made. This is what I developed actually over the course of probably 3 to 6 months. It was an online program curriculum, 9 modules, 50 lectures, really short, all written by me, 27 labs, because I felt that exercises were really critical. We had Unqork Form Builder, now we call it Designer, so it's essentially a dedicated training environment with labs. So I worked on writing content, but also developing exercises, and then at the end, there was an exam that I tested people with. And that was it. The minute the program was fully baked, we presented it to our partners, and I taught it for 3 days straight, then took a break, and then went back to it for several weeks straight because we kept having demand and we got positive feedback, and everybody was really excited that we had this program, that before there was no opportunity to learn the tool, but now there is, and it was just good enough to make sure to prove that there is a reason to continue. And so that's as far as stage 1. Once that happened, I had no option but to move to stage 2. And this is where I had to prove that the program doesn't just exist, but has the right and opportunity to grow. I also started interviewing first teammates for my function. And again, I hired technical writer and technical trainer first. And I started picking technical writing platforms for my writer and learning management platform for my trainer. And I started loosely tying the org into overall organization because I needed help generating more advanced content and making everything significantly more professional. So at this moment, this is what my org looked like. I'm still here, I'm head of enablement, and I hired a technical writer and I hired a technical trainer. So this is where we're sitting, the three of us. Moving along. So two things come up a lot, and I've been asked this question many, many times. When you are thinking through educational services, how do you select the right learning management system? And how do you select the right technical writing platform? So let me start first with the learning management system, because we were looking at two at the same time, but it's just easier to cover this one. So super, super simple here, like back to spreadsheets again. If you don't know how to select learning management platform, all you have to do is to do a bunch of Googling, a bunch of research, and figure out what are your top 10. In my case, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ones that kind of caught my eye and the ones that I kept hearing about. I put them here in my spreadsheet, and then on the left-hand side, and this is really important, here I basically listed all my criteria that were important to me. And this is where you're going to have to do a little bit of work. You need to understand yourself and your needs. What exactly are you looking to get out of your learning management system? For us, it was integration with Zendesk, integration with Flare, because we considered Flare as our technical writing platform as well. At this time, I also thought that it was important that they integrated. Integration with Zoom, ability to support internal, external, and partner tabs, easy navigation, easy editor, single sign-on, custom domain, virtual labs or equivalent, automatic certification, community piece, rich data, and so on and so forth. You will have to develop your own, and each and every solution is designed for a little bit of a different client, so they will not be all the same, they're all different. In fact, as you know, there are over 800 different LMSs out there, so this project was really big. But I just honestly went and talked to all of them, talked to their customer departments and scored them, and essentially put yes or no or details around each and every one of those buckets, and kind of slowly started forming an opinion as far as which one of them will more closely align with my goals. And then once that was complete, I put together a proposal for my leadership team, which is what you're looking right now at on your screens. And here's what happened. Here's what I did next. I basically listed the same criteria again, as you see, a bunch of integrations, Zoom, Zendesk, Madcap, Flare, multiple domains, learning paths. And then I said that some of them were must-haves. Like, for example, integration with Madcap Flare was must-have, ability to post content, internal and external audiences was must-have, ability to filter content was a must-have, then custom domain was must-have, virtual labs, and so on and so forth. And so I basically ranked the criteria this way just to see which ones I could not live without. I did a little bit more of a research. And by the way, this chart, industry leaders in different categories here, actually comes from research that I've done via TSIA, that company that I recommended earlier. So they give you a lot of information. And I saw, for example, that this platform SkillJar popped up as a leader in certification, gamification, learning management, which was really critical for me. So that gave me another insight. And then finally, I essentially created a must-have breakdown when I said, okay, so our current solution, which was like some home-baked system, which wasn't great. And then there's a proposed solution, which I thought would be SkillJar. And I essentially said, okay, for integration, we have this part. For multiple domain, currently nothing, but there is something there in a new solution. For learning paths, currently nothing. There is something in a new solution. And one by one, I broke it down, created a proposal, got it approved. And next thing we know, we have ourselves learning management system. So that's as far as how do you select SkillJar, how do you select learning management system. So like I said, we went with this platform called SkillJar, and it's been working out really great for us, a very successful partnership. And once we did that, in parallel, we were also looking at technical writing platform. And there we actually, in a very similar fashion, had to compare a bunch of solutions. So I actually have this on my screen, a couple of slides that we looked at as we were selecting the technical writing platform. I was actually very lucky. I felt that technical writing platform selection might have been more difficult for me than a learning management system, simply because of some of the technicalities that go behind selecting the platform and some of the very specific features that may not be familiar to me as somebody who's not a technical writer. But my first hire was a very experienced technical writer, and she recommended, sort of helped me a little bit narrow it down. So those are the kind of top makers, the Adobe RoboHelp, Adobe FrameMaker, Dita, and Madcap. And across the left-hand side here were the 6 buckets that we felt we couldn't live without. Like, for example, true single sourcing, open architecture, full CSS support to make your content very beautiful, leveraging existing content, extremely important because by this time we already had a bunch of content and we did not want to throw it away. Maximum content reuse, again, in the same kind of spirit, and standalone authoring solution. And if you look through every single one of them, they would have something for some categories, maybe like Adobe here lacks support across a bunch of others, but bottom line, across all of them, it was really Madcap Flare that met all the requirements. And we decided to go with this company because it really was really well known, great reputation, very good support, easy sale cycle, everything we needed. We had somebody who understood how to manage it, and we made decisions pretty quickly, and we stand by it firmly, and also expanding our seats probably every few months as well. So it's been a really good partnership. So I'm going to go back here for a second. If you're interested to learn more about how we work with Madcap, we wrote a case study here on Unqork, how we deliver state-of-the-art persona-based learning management system using Madcap Flare single source publishing and Madcap Central for collaboration. So it's a really big case study that goes into great detail as far as how we actually did all of this and sort of what's the approach and what was so special about this particular solution. But I can, again, share all these links at the end. Okay, so now we are basically at stage number 3. We build minimal viable product, we prove the growth, we selected key platforms, and now this was the time to productize our offering. Productization means building out your team further and introducing structure to your team. We have to select badging and certification platform and QA platform. It's for questions and answers. And also we have to tie the org into the entire organization a little tighter. So here, this is what my org looks like at this time. So again, head of enablement on top, but now I have 4 different departments already. I have technical writing department, I have instructional design department, I have technical training department, and I have a forum department. So technical writing is pretty straightforward. We hired a bunch of writers, we promoted one of them, so it became like a fully functioning unit. Then technical training was very similar. We hired a bunch of trainers and training admin. For those of you who might have not built technical training functions before, you always want to pair your trainers with admins for scheduling. That's like a standard best practice. Our forum, we'll talk a little bit about Stack Overflow as a community forum for questions and answers. And I just hired a very good sort of personality fit for this role, who was really enthusiastic, young, sort of fearless person who ran our community. And another function that had to be stood up was instructional design. And instructional design was a new function for me, and I did not know about it before, and I did not understand very well exactly how it's going to fit into the entire organization. So after some research, I basically understood that there was no way to progress forward. There was no way to be successful unless we build this org with instructional design. And so what is instructional design organization? For those who are interested and may not have dealt with it a lot, they basically create and execute strategy for the following areas. One of them is learning paths. So learning paths is a systematic approach to content that builds on each other for the product. If before I knew, for example, there was an area that users needed to know about it, so we would write an article and just post it online. And we continued doing that till we had a whole bunch of content, but it was pretty disorganized, or at least unsystematized. Now we have to think through how each and every lesson fits in overall grid and structure of the entire educational offering. So there has to be a systematic approach that would come with the content. Instructional design is the team that does it. You need to design your academy better. Again, instead of just having a bunch of content there, you have to think, how the folders look? What's your user journey? When they arrive to Academy, do they see a bunch of content and get overwhelmed by it, or do they see clear paths and calls to action? How to organize that? Instructional design tells us. They have to focus on consumption also. Consumption deals with making sure that your users consume the education. Just give me 1 second here. There we go. Yep, there we go. They deal with consumption, prompts, announcements, reminders, which is something that's really critical for your educational services, because if you don't talk to your users, they forget to study, they forget to come back. They deal with badging and certifications, imagery, naming, description, gamification of the entire process, which is really critical. Again, they work on engagement, which is really close to consumption. It's about communication. And they also think the grading. Grading for us was really important because we have a lot of users who want to learn technology. Our grading could be automated or could be manual. That was a big decision for us to make. We have to figure out what is our pass-fail rate, how many users do we want to fail versus how many users do we want to pass. That essentially how hard is our material, and what is the exam content per level, and what are our levels in general. So all of this kind of theoretical strategy thinking goes in the instructional design team. And I thought this was very interesting because our organization, a lot of people in our organization didn't understand what this org does, and how important it is, how critical it is to build out a really strong educational services offering. So I'm going to skip forward. So once we build out the org and we hired instructional design team and we hired forum leader, in order to productize, there are a few things that we introduced. We introduced new formats, we introduced new content, and we introduced new journey. As far as new formats, we introduced self-service versus premium. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. We introduced new associate path certification as far as new content. In general, by the way, we have 3 levels. We have associate, expert, and master. And it's loosely related to basic, medium, and advanced, although in no way would I call associate basic, because it is a really, really robust, about 120 hours of independent study certification that essentially teaches you how to be extremely comfortable in a no-code environment. Yeah, it's definitely not basic, but it does allow you to build basic to medium complexity applications. And then we have associate, expert, and master. So we have 3-layer approach. So this is the first one that we pushed out. And then we had a new journey. We had a new educational website. We redesigned our academy, and we also introduced community awards, which I think is a really critical part and something that you should be thinking about if you are trying to engage your users to consume your content. So this is just a little bit about the associate certification. Essentially an official starting point for new users for us, step-by-step guide, lesson by lesson, very well organized, and provides users with an official certification and a LinkedIn badge. Here, you know, we basically 100 new courses, 166 articles. There's a lot of content. So we thought really hard about what goes into here and how robust it has to be for it to be considered its own standalone product. Then we had an assessment, which was very off the moment in the sense that it was in a private enterprise sector focused on project using New York City public data. The reason behind it is that we, as Unqork, when the COVID hit New York, the wave of COVID hit in March, the company got organized around building a portal to help track COVID, but also later deliver meals to those in need. And this is how we secured the relationships with the New York City, which is now a client of ours. We built our final project around using the blueprint of that effort, which was very, very nice. It's a comprehensive human graded with feedback assessment. Then a whole bunch of awards come if you pass. And then we have a LinkedIn certification attached to it at the end. A LinkedIn badge is also something that we had a lot of success with. We find our users love online badging. They love adding it, claiming their awards. They share it and announce to their networks that they earned that certification, that badge, which helps us essentially propel the knowledge of our educational services into unknown territories. And then the second thing that we've done, we introduced a new academy layout. So I'm going to show what academy actually looks like at Unqork. This is our learning management system, SkillJar. This is its front end. Before, if you log in here, you'll see just a bunch of courses. Now we have 3 distinct pathways: course catalog, learning paths, and certifications and resources. Like if I go to course catalog here, what I'm going to see is basically a whole bunch of different courses. If I click on course catalog, I just want to browse. I just want to see what exists there. And there's a whole bunch of different things, right? Every one of them usually contains a bunch of different articles for different topics. If, for example, I'm more interested in an organized way to learn, I will click on certifications. And here, I'm going to go into the associate configurator, the one that we just discussed, and see that this is a course that I can register and simply proceed in this sequence one by one through all of those lessons. At the end, take exam and be awarded my badge. And then the third one here, just gonna give it a minute. A third one here is really the resources. So if I have any questions, I want to reach out, I want to access forum, I would go here. So it's a pretty big effort to organize the content in a way that is very systematic. And that was part of the productizing the product on the educational services offering. And the second thing that we've also done is we introduced the new Unqork educational website, which sits in front of Academy. So if you go to Academy to learn, you go to educational services website to learn about learning, so to speak. For example, if I don't understand how to engage with our content, I need to understand, like, how do you start your journey with Unqork education? So, okay, we have Academy, okay, we have certifications, we have classes, and we have a forum. That's already helpful, right? Then it tells me that I have 3 levels of certification here, right? It also tells me that I can take a live course if I sign up here, and a whole bunch of Q&As. As far as learning paths, and we're going to move into this really, really quickly, we're offering self-service and premium. We'll talk about it in phase 4. I can understand here that there are 2 different ways to learn, even though they take you to the same exact place. And also we have a little bit of a discussion here about different awards, and I'll cover that too. And finally, if I want to understand what is the Unqork certification, in fact, what goes into associate, I can read about it here. I can see what are the prerequisites, what is the learning focus, what's the assessment, and the same for all other expert as well as the master. So I recommend building a website like this that essentially will answer all the questions that your users have as they're building towards their knowledge base, right? So you essentially want to make it so easy that they just want to continue instead of quitting. Okay. All right, so just to summarize a little bit, as far as productization, we have a new content for associate configurator. We have a new journey with different websites, and we also have a different ways to engage self-service versus premium. Again, our org right now includes instructional design, which is what helped us to create a product out of our content. And this is what the organization looked like. For me, I built 4 different functions. I highly recommend this functions works for us really, really well. You know, we don't have any issues or any overlaps. This is like a really well designed from the organizational perspective metrics. So the last thing I want to cover, and I think that's an interesting piece here, is that if you read a lot of research around how to encourage your users to consume your education, and you always want your users to consume as much of it as possible, because ultimately your education is what stands on the way of your product adoption. The more students you have, the more students learn your product, the more users you're going to have. So education is a pathway to adoption. And so you always want them to come back. One way to do it is to give them awards for completing their educational journeys. So what we developed here, we have an awards sort of matrix. We have here 3 levels, so associate, expert, and master. And depending on which exam you successfully pass, you get different award. Like, for example, we're building out an Unqork swag store where you can claim your prizes. You're going to get a certain number of points for associate, expert, master, and then you can exchange those points for a gift. And it's actually a really fun project. You get to, you know, order a bunch of cool swag and put branding on it and offer it on your website. It's really interesting. We offer preference in job interviews and potential placement if you score really high on the exams. You can be part of the advisory council or try Unqork features before they release, only at higher levels. And then once the world is open and we have conference, offer free conference tickets, and then speaking engagements. And the 2 highest ones for us is marketplace participation and coffee chat with our founder, and that comes with the master. But you can develop your own system of awards. Essentially, the whole point here is to give users an award or some kind of credit in exchange for completing a piece of the education so that they can cash it in later for something they want. If it's meeting CEO or maybe getting a gift, whatever that is, it's something they're going to be excited about and maybe push that extra hard in order to complete education because they want something out of it. Okay. So on that front, I want to talk just a little bit more about this one last feature. We didn't talk much about technology in this phase. And one piece of technology that was really critical is that we introduced Stack Overflow to our list of tech partners. What we were looking to do is to create immediate Q&A interaction forum or place for users to post a question and to get an answer right away. So for us, Stack Overflow response rate is under 30 minutes, which means that if somebody is building on our platform and they are stuck, they can go on Stack Overflow, ask the question, and under 30 minutes, they're going to get a really good answer. So their obstacle will be broken and they can continue configure. We went through 50 seeded questions, 2,000 questions in no time, literally over a couple of quarters, really, really quickly. So users were asking and they were getting answers. So the community grew. We offer virtual certainty in getting help. So 99% of our questions are answered. There's almost no question there sitting without answer. And the reason behind that is that we also build a very robust culture of subject matter experts who constantly sit on the website looking to see if there are any unanswered questions. You can offer private access here, so it's hidden from the public eye, and you can give information on very advanced topics. It also allows for self-service. We used to have a problem where we hire new configurators and they would essentially drag down the experienced configurators with all the questions they asked them. That went away because now they have a place to go. It can be leveraged at any moment and has very deeply technical information. This, by the way, is what Stack Overflow looks like for Unqork. It's super basic, very, very basic. So just a question on top and then an answer on the bottom. And you can upvote answers. See here, we have 66 views for this particular question. And you can just scroll down or search, filter, and essentially engage this way. Once you are familiar with how to use it, it's really, really effective. A single question can have multiple answers, and users usually tell you really quickly which answer was correct. And we also have a moderator who scrubs the platform regularly so that there are no bad questions there or bad answers. So if you're building educational services organization, I would say some kind of Q&A forum is a must. For us, Stack Overflow is very, very effective, and we've been successful with it. The growth has been tremendous. So I'm going to leave you with that. Maybe just a little bit on this. SME program is one lever you can pull to make sure that your Stack Overflow is attended well. We actually cherry-picked a bunch of superpower users at the company, and we award them prizes, $1,000, $500, $250 for participating in Stack and collecting points for participation. So every quarter, 3 people in the company gets called out at the big event, big stand up in front of our founder and congratulated for being amazing contributors, awarded cash prize. They also received the special SME hoodies that was really cute and white and kind of gorgeous. They get their LinkedIn badges. They get enough awards to where it becomes extremely popular. In fact, this program has become so popular that we have too many SMEs now, and just as of now, we introduce a higher barrier to entry. So you have to collect more points and be even more aggressive in order to end up in the first 3 to 5 spots, because there's so many people who want to be part of it. So I would say a program like this to support your forum is also a must if you don't want your community to die, if you want it to really thrive. All right, and we are at stage number 4. This is our last stage. We're almost done. I think I have about 10 minutes, and we can, if you guys have Q&A, we can do that. So stage 4 is really about commercialization. So if you are doing well and your MVP worked, you grew, and then you productize properly, build everything properly, select all your platforms, then what needs to happen really is that you need to start charging for your product. And there's a lot of discussion in the industry out there whether or not educational services should be offered for free. And the answer is no, very simply no. And you're going to hear that from any person who knows sort of what is educational services and how it's valued. We don't get education in the university for free for the most part in this country anyway. And nothing of value, no certification comes for free, and your educational services should not be free either. In fact, let me just go here. Just because something is offered for free does not mean anyone will consume it. So that's insight number 1. Insight number 2 here that I actually didn't list, but I'm going to say is that people value more something they had to pay for. So when you offer education for free, you're going to get students who are not committed. When you offer it at cost, you're going to get students who take it seriously. And the best practice, absolutely hands down, is to make educational services a revenue generating function if you can, or at least maybe move away from cost center. That's your goal. So at this time, for me to move my productized offering into a place where it's a full product at cost, this is what the org looks like. We have 4 different functions. We have a bunch of technical writers. We also have contractors. In general, I actually recommend for technical writing function to leverage contractors. There are great companies who provide them. It's very easy to get them up to speed, just simply because of the kind of work they do. They're great, plentiful resource. They usually, at least for us, integrate in team really easily, and it has become a great way for us to scale immediately. Instructional design now has a few program managers. We have instructional SME. We are right now looking at getting digital content creator, and we deal very closely with subject matter users from different functions. And our technical training here also kind of grew up. We have more trainers. Again, we leverage sometimes subject matter experts for more technical topics. And our forum also grew a little bit and deals very, very closely with customer success organization. So this is what the mature org looks like for me at the moment. I think we're going to scale a little bit next year, but for the most part, having 4 departments, technical writing, instructional design, technical training, and forums, kind of like a steady-state model that works really well. So let's talk a little bit about pricing. As of now, we basically offer educational services as a 2-prong offer. One of them is self-service, and another one is premium. Why? Why do we do it? Why do we do 2 different models? It's very simple. We do see education as an avenue for product adoption. So we never want to introduce a barrier so large where users will be discouraged from consuming. So we created self-service, which is completely on your own path to knowledge. It's included with annual-based subscriptions, so all our clients and partners can participate. There's absolutely no limitation how much time you're going to spend on Academy and learn our content. There's no time to complete a single path or read the content. You get access to the content, which is on Academy, Training Sandbox, which is our training environment, and Stack Overflow, our Q&A platform that helps very much with issues or problems or questions. If they have a question, right, they need to turn to somebody, but because it's self-service, they're going to turn to community, which is a really effective way to do it. Outside of developing content, it doesn't cost us anything to have self-service, and so we're offering it for free just to make sure that our users have the opportunity to learn. For other types of users who are maybe more white glove, maybe clients who want to have a better experience, more controlled experience, maybe they just don't have the time to do it themselves, they need us to help them. This is how we view pricing. We essentially price per level, like the associate level is priced. I won't be able to share you what that is because that's a proprietary information, but I will tell you that we basically run a class and price per class of 15. We find that 15 users is approximately optimal number we can serve at a time without downgrading or putting downward pressure on our experience. And then we also have a separate price for an individual user. Individual user price is a little higher than a group class price just because it makes sense for us, right? We won't encourage our clients to buy classes because it's a better way to learn. We do want to teach as many people as possible. Premium is usually 3 weeks to complete. So it's expedited. You will be done in 3 weeks and you will know the platform well, we say. And we also have a Center of Excellence program, which is essentially train the trainer. I would also recommend if you are looking at educational services, train a trainer is really huge in the industry. It's all about teaching some power users and then allowing those users to take your content and teach anybody they want. We did, however, retain the control over the certifications because we want to make sure we don't lose control of the quality. And we also price that program for users. So if you are thinking, if you're at a place where you have a kind of offering that can be priced, there are 3 different approaches to pricing. It's cost-based, competition-based, and value-based. Research will tell you that the best, kind of the golden standard is really to do value-based pricing because it's really about looking at what kind of value you give to users and then pricing based on that. Cost-based means that you just look at the cost of the offering and then put a markup on top of it. Competition-based means that you look at what others are doing in your industry and price similarly. Value-based is the most sophisticated approach, where you say, okay, I know how much value I provide to my clients, so I know I can price a little bit higher, and they will still get a ton of value. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a model here. I had to strip it out of specific numbers, but I'll show you the approach. When you look into price a product, and for me, one of the products was train-a-trainer program. So it's basically center of excellence that involves premium training for 15 users, automated operations application that we built, 100 graded associate certifications, unlimited number of users trained themselves, and also weekly support and quarterly upskill sessions. So what I did here, I basically looked at my labor. I said, okay, so my trainer cost X per hour, my writer cost Y per hour, and my instructional designer costs Z per hour. And then this is the number of hours that we will need to dedicate for, say, for example, upskilling, academy content update, support. And then I just went ahead and said, okay, the first training of the superpower user class of 15, I know that number because it's a separate exercise to price that. Then to grade 100 certificates, say, for example, it takes me an hour to grade it. I'll just multiply that by the number of users who are going to be graded times the rate for a trainer or instructional designer who's going to do the grading. And then I did the same thing for support, just multiply the labor cost by the number of hours. And then I just sum up the training of the leads plus the certification cost plus the support cost for the program. And I come up with a sum A, B, and C. And then at the end of the day, I say, okay, so that's my baseline. This is what it cost me to run this program. Then I'm going to go ahead and apply margin on top of it. You can apply 25% margin, or you can be 100% margin, completely up to you. This is where this point comes in. You need to understand how much value you provide and how expensive, for example, it will be for a client or partner to build their own program. And so here's where this artistic or artsy piece comes in. Art is opposed to science. But calculating your baseline costs, which is this mathematical model, this is your cost-based, and then from competition-based perspective, we do know what those things cost, and so they, we sort of took that into consideration, even though it doesn't drive our agenda necessarily. So yes, this is basically how you price your offering. I think this is it for my slides. So I'm going to take a break here and see if there are questions.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. That was fantastic. Lots of great information. I was dutifully taking notes myself. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to just show just a couple things here before we get to, I think we'll have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. We want to be mindful of everybody's time. Let me just go ahead and do this here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you all can see my screen here. I think you're seeing mine, so let me say this. Okay, so again, just as a reminder to me, and thank you, Olga, that was fantastic. For those of you on the call, if you're thinking about building something out like this, if you don't yet, we touched a little bit on the tech stack and the different solutions to kind of build something like this out. This is a good time if you're thinking about building out this kind of structure. There is a promotion right now on new license subscriptions for MADCAP software. So just a little bit here, you can save up to $700 on your subscription. It's a great way to get started before year end. So get in touch with your sales rep or email sales@madcapsoftware.com and we can review the promotional pricing that we have right now if you're looking to build out this type of educational platform. Again, the tool, the solutions being just one bit of it, as we were able to see from this fantastic webinar. And then another friendly reminder for everybody, if you haven't yet registered, our MADWorld conference is coming up next October. There is a discount running through the end of the year if you'd like to register. It's a wonderful way to network with Flare users. If you've never been before, it's a fantastic week. So we encourage you to pop up over to our website, look at the amazing panel of speakers that we've lined up, and hopefully we will see you there. Anyway, a couple things I just want to mention real quick. So again, this is going to be recorded. We're going to be sending out all of these slides to everybody. I think we have time, maybe, Olga, for one question and something that's come up that's sort of kind of asked a couple times. I'm going to see if I can summarize. There's a few questions that are sort of similar here, so I think we'll cover a few of the folks on the call today. You know, one thing that really stood out was education equals product adoption. I love that so much, and I think that's so true. And I think, you know, if you were to distill it down even more, what that means, at least in my opinion, is that content is so important. And that content could go to so many different channels. It goes to education, it can feed into marketing. And I think this notion of really having to buy into other departments and get their buy-in, I think is really important. You know, how, and maybe this is still going on given where you are, you know, are you able to sort of see, because you are tying in so many different departments and you kind of started from scratch, how are you able to get buy-in from all these different departments, number one? And were you able to see, are you able to see any kind of ROI as it pertains to your content? Because I think that, you know, again, whether it's training or marketing, I always think content is king or queen, right? So are you able to kind of see this and present these findings to your C-level, or is that something that's sort of still in development? Are you guys looking at that?
No, absolutely no. Well, the first thing, I think, let's do it one more time. I felt like there were three pieces to that question. Let's start with the first.
Sorry, it was broad stroke, trying to cover a lot that just came in.
Yeah. So the first one was about how do we get the sponsorship, essentially, to kind of develop all of this. Was that right?
Correct. Yeah. How did you work with all these different departments? You touched on it a little bit, but maybe you could, you know, tie into any kind of financial results you were able to achieve.
Yes. So we are, there is a little bit of a secret there, but I'm glad I'm going to share it. So if you're looking to build out this function, you actually need to be in a company that really truly understands the value of it. I've been in discussions with people who said that their just senior leadership does not understand the value of education. That's not a good start. You want to be in a company that understands, and especially in this environment right now, the remote environment, the environment that new skills are so important. Education is really a king or a queen, and you need to have somebody in the leadership who really understands that. So our founder, Gary, always been a really vocal supporter of enablement. And we got very lucky because we demonstrated demand so quickly. I created a really very basic program. And then there were people basically lining outside of the door trying to figure out how they can schedule with one of our trainers to consume it. So seeing that for any leadership team, seeing that there's partners and clients line up along, you know, outside of the door to get into class, and there's 3 months wait, that speaks volumes for executive leadership. They know there's a demand to consume it, and all they need is just to provide more firepower. This is how you get more headcount, your team grows. It really is about having, to begin with, a good, strong advocate, and B, demonstrating really quickly the value. And the value is the demand. So if you have demand for your services, this is your value, and that means you have to start growing it.
Wonderful. Great. Yeah, thank you so much. I know there was a couple questions that came in sort of surrounded that, so I thought I'd throw that sort of all-encompassing one out there. Well, this has been great. We're right at the top of the hour, so thank you so much, Olga. This was fantastic, and I think it gave everybody something to think about. And again, it's been great to kind of see your journey and how all of this content that you're managing is coming together to develop such an amazing, you know, product adoption platform. It's really cool. So thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing insight with us. I know I'm looking forward to getting a hold of your slides and looking at some of those metrics again. That was fantastic. So thanks everybody for joining today. I do hope that you found this to be helpful depending on where you are in your own journey. And again, we will be sending out a link to the recording later on, along with the slides that Olga was able to share so that you can refer back to it. So Olga, thanks again. That was fantastic. We certainly appreciate your time today, and I know our audience has as well. So we hope to see everybody on another webinar, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye, thank you.